So it's been about 8 months since I did my first fish room tour. I've had some changes. I thought, what the heck? Let's do another one. I'm just going to walk through the fish room real quick, give you a little bit of an overview, and then I'll go tank by tank. So, welcome to my fish room. Eventually, this entire room is going to be turned into a breeding room only. Right now, it's my main fish room and just housing the broodstock and the parrots. So let's start right here. This first tank are my Odessa barbs. I have 5 fish in here. As they grew, ended up being 2 females and 3 males. They're just now getting to a breeding size. The females are getting pretty big, especially that one that's on the bottom or now in the center. So the plan is they're going to be my next breeding project. I'm going to remove the males, fatten up the females. Actually, I'm going to put them to a separate tank that I have a lot of moss in, but I'm going to bring the females to the separate tank, really fatten them up with baby brine shrimp and frozen bloodworms, then reintroduce the males, let them spawn until I notice the females go down, or give it 2 or 3 days. I'm going to remove all the parents and then raise up the fry, or at least that's the plan. So that is my next breeding project. Below that, I have the rainbow crebenzas. There's 3 in this tank. I got them a few months ago when they're a lot smaller, and it turned out that all 3 are female. It's going to be real difficult to see, but I see one tail right there. But anyways, so 3 female rainbow crebenzas in this tank, and they actually look really good. They get they've had eggs before and got rib fat bellies, 2 of them at the same time once, and so these super dark purple red bellies, very bright fins, very colorful, and they're showing off for each other, but they're 2 females, so these guys are ready to spawn. And luckily, I'll show you in a minute, I finally got some males yesterday. This bottom tank is ready for fish. Below that is a 75 gallon. Currently it is 2 species of fish in here. I have my yellowtail ACI and red-shouldered peacocks. The peacocks take quite a long time to grow, but once they do, they get nice and beefy, and like that one, like they still got, that one right there, they still got some growing to do, some size, but there's some, they're pretty decent size right now. Red shoulders are spawning, but not very often. The yellowtail ACI, however, are constantly spawning. I've never had a hybrid issue or cross spawning. The yellowtails kind of stay to themselves, and the peacock, I mean the intermingle, but when it comes to discipline or hierarchy, it's the yellowtail ACI have their own system, their own hierarchy, and the peacocks have their own as well. So this is a pretty, at least temperament, very balanced tank. They seem to have very similar personalities, no overly aggressive. There's a mix of males and females, and I've had no issues. As fish have been born in this tank and have grown, this has started to get to be a little bit crowded lately, so I'm going to thin out these numbers real soon. Above that is my funnest tank to watch during feeding time. It's a group of about 20 black ruby barbs and about 20 gold barbs. I think there's 21 black ruby barbs and I believe 19 actually of the gold barbs. Gold barbs are at breeding size. They're going to be a project down the line. The gold or the black ruby barbs, they're finally getting old enough that some of them I can start to tell that are males. Like that one right there is a male, but he's not fully colored up and he's just now starting to get that stage. So I'd say within 2 months, I'm going to have some very obvious males in there. And so these guys are just on the verge to be ready to start breeding. But as you can see, they're all fat and happy and sassy. But definitely during feeding time, these are the funnest fish. Very aggressive feeders. I have 6 species of barbs right now in these, and they're all great eaters, but this is just such a fun tank to watch eat. We'll go around the corner here. 2 more 75s. This is a male-only, semi-aggressive tank. There's only 2 species in here right now. Haplochromis species ruby green and Weissochromis species blue-tipped. Even though there's no blue-tipped, even when they're colored up, but they get black with kind of a yellow fringe on the end of their fins. Right now, it's getting close to feeding time, and they see me wandering around, so once they get really hungry, they start bouncing up and hitting the lid, making all kinds of noise. Somehow they even get water splashes out, even though there's very few spaces, but they know right where those spaces are. But this is a pretty fun tank. Down here are calls and aggressive fish. When they get too aggressive, I put them in here. I got a few Nushi squamulatus in here. They're probably my most aggressive fish in this fish room. I'll show you their main tank in a moment. But they end up in here, and I still get issues in here, so sometimes I got to separate farther. Next row is, or the next rack is 18 20 highs. Currently in the top row, 5 of the 6 are being utilized. The middle row, 6 of the 6 have fish in them. And in the bottom row, the middle one with the pots that are soaking, that's the only one that doesn't have any fish. These have been set up since August now. I've recently tested with API liquid ammonia test and some test strips, nitrates, ammonia, and everything's good. Everything's ready for fish. After I tested the waters, confirmed it's safe, I actually added to all these empty tanks. They actually have a single male Endler in them, just to make sure the nitrifying bacteria is kept active. Had a little waste in the system until I eventually get the fish settled in. So on this second row, I'm going to get to this tank in a little bit, but this is a CPD grow out tank. So in the second row right now in this tank, I have neon tetras, black neon tetras, and pineapple wag swordtails, and a whole bunch of hornwort. So the plan is that eventually I'd like to have a nice group of about 200 neon tetras, so eventually I'm going to spawn these guys. I just haven't got around to it yet. Also in this row, since the other 5 tanks in this row are Corydoras, I have one more group of albinos that are up here, and eventually, actually probably within the next week or 2, they're going to be moved into this tank so I can have Cory Catfish Rogue. So, past the neons and the swordtails, the next tank over is Corydoras triliniitis. And I actually had a hang in the back spawning tank on here where the filter got clogged on it. I overflowed into that tank about half of the stock that was in there. And in there I had between 30 and 40 albino Cory eggs, between 30 and 40 triliniitis eggs, and between 30 and 40 stir-by Cory eggs. So everybody got mixed up. It's very easy to tell the albinos. The triliniitis and the stir-bys, when they're babies, they look very similar. But as soon as they start to get any kind of color, the triliniitis will get that black on their dorsal fins. So they're very easy to tell apart. So all these fish, or all the babies, except for the triliniitis, they have colony spawns. There's multiple generations in there. But I've noticed that the 3 sets of eggs that were in the breeding box, they all hatched within 3 days. Or I'm sorry, they were all put in there within 3 days of each other. So they're in age all within 3 days, which is approximately 5 weeks old. Look at the humongous size of these albinos. I can't see, I spooked them a second ago, but I don't see any of the triliniitis. The triliniitis babies, the same age, are about half that size. And then the sterbies are about a quarter of that size. And this is all about 5 weeks ago. So in about 5 weeks, these guys have gotten massive. Sterbies are about the same size of my experience with other cories, and the triliniitis are growing a little faster. So I don't know if other people have had that experience, that sterbies just are very slow growers, or if it's just me. And I very heavily overfeed this tank with baby brine shrimp, pellets, flakes, basically anything. But this is an extremely overfed tank. I have a ton of snails, so waste isn't an issue, and I do frequent, regular water changes, so I never have dust or ammonia spikes or anything. Or if I do, I nip it in the bud immediately. But with all this heavy feeding, it's not like these albinos are out competing anybody for food, because there's plenty of food for everybody. Next tank is my orange Venezuelan cories, and I have orange shrimp. Right now, of course, since I'm taking the video, I brought up the phone. Normally these guys don't hide too much, but they're hiding from the phone right now. These are my most prolific breeders by far when it comes to the Corydoras. When they breed, they like this corner back there on the left-hand side, next to that Java moth, or I'm sorry, the guppy grass. And when they breed, typically they'll put about 300 or so eggs at a time. And the main group started as 1 female and 4 males. I grew them up small, and that's just the sex they turned out to be. But still, just a single female. She's pumping out 300 eggs at a time. The next tank over are my sterbi cories. These guys are constantly out and active, and they spawn pretty regularly. Their spawns are about 30 or so eggs. So right now, this is the only tank in the entire row that looks pretty rough. There's suspended particles in this water everywhere. I had a spawning mop in this tank also, but it grew a ton of algae on it and got kind of real funky looking. I actually pulled it out last night, and so this is all from last night. I need to pull out that filter and clean it, but normally this isn't this cloudy. But these are the sterbies. Next tank over are my panda cories. These guys are just now starting to get to the age where they can start spawning. I've seen a handful of eggs. I haven't had enough to collect. A one-off egg, one out here, one off there, maybe in the spawning mob, maybe in the sand, but I have not seen any batches placing anywhere, and I haven't even seen any spawning behavior to kind of look to see where they're putting the eggs. So they're just now getting to the age of spawn, and hopefully they start spawning real soon, or at least spawning in more numbers. Next tank over, I have gold laser cories and rosy barbs. There's actually 5 rosy barbs in here, 2 females and 3 males. I had a trio of these guys, and they died. And then I was cleaning out the tank. I was going to do a massive water change, even though the cories were in here. I was going to do a massive water change. And in the middle of changing the water, I saw a few fry swimming around. So I immediately stopped the water change. Who knows how many went down the drain. But that day, I think it was like March 16th or March 13th, I had 5 fry swimming around. All of them survived until this day. And so just about 7 months later, and 2 females, 3 males. I'm sure they've already been breeding, but I'm going to separate the males, really fatten these girls up, and get at least 1 or 2 spawns from them. The gold laser cories, by far my most reclusive cories. They're constantly hiding. I couldn't even tell you the exact number I have right now. They should have been spawning at least 6 months ago. They're probably close to 2 years old, wherever they are. I've never seen a single egg in here, never even seen any signs of spawning, and I've never even seen one get bigger than the other, or any of the others. I haven't pulled them out to look at their body shape from the top down, but I have a sneaking suspicion that I have all male I believe there's like 8 or 9 of them in here now, but I'm pretty sure they're all males, even though I can't find a single one. So right now, just 5 rosy barbs ready to breed, and 8 or 9 male, most likely Corridoras or gold lasers. Next tank below it is a grow out tank. I'm just growing out a few Pseudotropheus interruptus and red shoulder peacock cichlids, and I'll get to the brooder or the brood stock in just a little bit. Next to that, same thing, just a grow out tank, and these are Benga sunshine peacock cichlids. Next tank to that, looks like those are the 2 females, Gara flame-tailed peacocks. And the male, he really likes that cave, so usually he's hiding in that cave. Usually I can see just the tip of his face, but I don't need to see that right now. All I have is the 2 females hanging out up there. But he is a really, really pretty fish, especially when he's getting ready to spawn. Still growing. They've had at least one time I saw a female holding. I just got these guys a few months ago. They still got a lot of size to go, but I expect once they do start getting into regular breeding mode, they should produce some really, really great looking fry. Next tank, right now I'm just soaking some pots to cut up. I'll show you my living room tank. I have green tiger barbs. I plan on bringing them down and setting up down here. The next 2 tanks are black bar endlers. The tank on the right is all male. The tank on the left is all female. I'm getting out of the live bearer game completely. That's why I have them separated. And so right now, I have no intention to ever about breeding these guys again. And so right now, this will just kind of be their homes. Next rack over here, I have 2 75s and then 5 10-gallon aquariums. This first 10-gallon aquarium, I just have a few call orange Venezuelan cories. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. There's one right there. There's some body shade. There's one that just swims in circles, and just the calls. So they're just hanging out in there. I also have a single male Apistogramma agassizi fire red. He usually hangs out in there, but there's some more caves hidden, so I'm not sure where he is right now. But I need to get a female for him. Oh, there he is, right there. So I want to get a female for him. Try spawning them. I've never spawned any Apistos before, so that'll be a fun project. The next tank. So the second tank I showed you were my rainbow cribenzas that turned out to be all female. Yesterday at Fish Club for auction, they had a reverse trio of full grown. These are full grown. The males have really long trailers on their fins. Reverse trio picked up for $10 of rainbow cribenzas. So now added to the 3 females I have over there, and I should have 4 females and 2 males. Right now I'm just quarantining them before I introduce them to the existing ones I have. I'm hoping that they'll naturally sorry, I almost fell over my dehumidifier. I'm hoping that they will naturally get along great, pick each other, and want to spawn together and naturally pair up. But if not, you just kind of see the trailers on that man right there. I zoomed in on the wrong spot. If they don't naturally pair up, I'll try to get the best looking male with the best looking female and hope I can force a spawn, or at least put them together and get them ready to spawn. Next tank is 3 Buenos Aires tetras. One of them has a crushed face. I have a feeling when she was bagged, when she was fry, probably bagged onto a hard surface, smashed her face in. But she is the tank boss. She is the alpha of these 3. Never had a problem eating. She spawned before. I haven't put any effort to raising the fry because these are very common fish, and I don't even know if I'll be able to sell these guys. So right now they're just living in there. If I find somebody that wants them, I'll probably just give them away. Next tank, since I'm getting out of the library game, have my blue tuxedo platies. Already got rid of the adults. These are just the remainders of the fry that are growing out. They're getting pretty big now, but I need to get rid of them before they start having babies of their own. Brought 6 of them to Fish Club yesterday for BAP, and these are the ones I have left. Next tank is, I'll get to the CPDs in just a moment, but this is a CPD grow out tank. You can see some of the babies. These are the latest ones right there. Right below it, a 75-gallon aquarium. These are my Kyoga, or I've read that they're pronounced Choga, so not exactly sure. But these are a critically endangered care species. I just recently lost my long time, about 3-year standing alpha male. So if you ever look up these Choga flamebacks, you see these lots of greens and yellows and really cool, very pretty fish, lots of colors. But what I found, that's usually, like right now, he's probably the best looking at the moment. But what I found is usually it's in the hierarchy, it's the 3rd or 4th standing male that'll have the most green, the most yellow, actually be the prettiest fish. What happens is, the more dominant they get, or the more higher up the scale, the darker they get. So I don't have any set. And they also do something too. Once there is finally an alpha, they'll grow a little bit of a hump on their head. They'll get their vertical bands will get really thick and really dark. They'll almost look like a convict or a frontosa or something, but really dark, really wide bands. Inside the bands will turn kind of a grayish blue, and then the tips of all their fins will turn red. And they'll grow between 1 and 2 inches. So it's crazy. Like right now, as soon as one of these guys finally establish who's going to be the next alpha, yeah, within a couple months, it's going to grow 1 to 2 inches, get really dark, and it'll never change back again. There's a couple that have been duking it out, so you get to see who's going to be the alpha. But yeah, usually the 3rd or 4th one in the hierarchy they always look the best and the most colorful. Tank below that, I have somewhere around 150 to 180 orange Venezuelan cories. And the only reason, these are just some that I spawned and I didn't sell. The only reason I quit selling them for a while, I'm going to do another batch soon and get another batch out there. But the only reason I haven't sold these because it's mesmerizing. When you see 150 plus cories in a school, they'll swim. They completely swim a school. They stay real tight. It's very flowing. It's very relaxing. It's actually really, really cool. And I need to, one of these days when I'm paying attention when they're doing it, I would catch a video of it. But it's just so awesome to watch. So I want to finally set these guys up in the proper tank, add a bunch of plants, and just probably keep them in 75 and watch some cool shows. So right here, it's got a TV, timer for the rooms. I'm a night owl, so I keep it. It stays on pretty late, and I'm usually I'm here turning them back on once they go out. A couple brine shrimp hatcheries, just so every night at the same time I got a batch ready to go. This is let's see if I get that reflection out of the way. A 33 long, divided into 5 sections. Turn that TV off. A 33 long, divided into 5 sections of approximately 6.5 gallons each. This is my main CPD breeding tank, or breeding aquariums. A little over a year ago, I got 32. Didn't pay attention to sex or anything, just divided them up into these 3 sections. They would colony spawn here or there, have a couple babies, the little sections grew, but I really didn't put too much serious effort into spawning them. Then a couple months ago, I just started spawning them seriously. I'm going to put out another video, show you my egg traps. I put these egg traps in for about 3 days, roughly 3 days at a time. Then I'll just dump the entire egg trap into a tank like that. 3 days later, keep going. And it's the laziest way to do it, but it works great. Ultimately, I produce about 50 a week doing it that way. I actually just removed I used to have babies in here. I removed all those the other day. Right below it is a 55-gallon tank with a humongous, non-stop, ever-growing clump of Java moss. And so you'll see moss all around the room. This tank and this light just grows it insane. Got moss in tons of different tanks. And over there, it's just Java moss everywhere. But it's turned mainly from this tank. So in this tank, I did an experiment for a while where I was trying to crossbreed just to see what would happen. Black bar endlers and nebulous steel guppies. A lot of them had these black bodies and really cool tails and really long dorsal fins. They're all a little bit different. They're all actually pretty cool. Some of them will just turn out to be endlers with almost like double sword tails, single sword tails, trailing swords. Some of these have just, they've just been interesting, and some of them do look pretty cool, but these is all only male hybrid endlers, or guppy endlers, along with 4 pineapple wag swordtails. The reason these swordtails that are in here, as opposed to the main colony right there, is that the ones in this tank, the 4 that I put in here didn't develop the black on the tail fin. So they're not wag. They don't have the wag part of the swordtail wag, or I'm sorry, pineapple wag swordtail. They don't have the wag part of it. Over here I have, these were from my, we'll get to in a moment, my main 2 breeders of my angelfish. These are 3 of the babies that I grew out, hoping I'd get a pair. I was hoping that these 2 would turn into a pair, and it looks like they are, because this one, because I would love to get a super dark all orange angelfish. This one, when he's in spawning mode, they're young, and I believe they only spawn once. But I saw her the other day. She was big and fat, and I saw her egg tube out. So I know for a fact, I know that's a female. Pretty sure that's a male. They've been hanging out together in this side of the tank. Right now it's getting close to feeding time. That's why they're over here. But normally he spends his days just in that far into the tank, and then these 2 hang out together. Put in a rock at an angle, or a flat stone. They haven't spawned on it yet. And they're real young. They're big for their age, because I had a bunch of call shrimp in here, and they just started munching and gotten huge. And there's still a bunch of, there's probably a couple hundred shrimp in here, but you'd be hard pressed to find any. I'd have to turn on the light, and you'd have to look for them in the middle. So these 2, this guy gets almost red and has just a little bit of black in it. This one is mainly orange or lighter orange with some white with 0 black in it. And with my goal of ultimately producing a solid dark orange fish, hopefully I can get some good babies from these guys and continue line breeding from there. Below that, let's see if I can pronounce it, Xistochromis species Nuchisquamulatus, a care species, endangered species. These are the ones, when they start acting up, they go to the coal and aggressive tank. These are by far the most aggressive fish in the fish room. The cool thing is the females are just as aggressive as the male. This is the alpha female in the tank right here. In this one, I have 2 males, the 2 cave, very similar cave system, both ends of the tank. They create an imaginary line in the center. They keep to their own space, keep the females in the center. She keeps all the other females, she keeps the entire tank in check. I've seen her go lockjaw with both of these males, and she doesn't really pick on the females. She just keeps everybody in line. Like, if the males get too aggressive, she'll go after the males. And the males really don't mess with her much. So even though she's not the alpha tank boss, she kind of is like just the tank boss nobody messes with. They just let her do her thing. And if she steps in, like I said, she's got no problem going lockjaw with any fish in here. But yeah, these guys are extremely aggressive and definitely a species-only fish. So the next wreck, there's one single orange female orange Medaka rice fish in there. Used to have a colony of black rose shrimp in here also, but planaria hit this tank. It hit it hard. I treated it. Haven't seen a worm in over a month, but it just wiped out the shrimp, pretty much wiped out the Medaka rice fish. the plan is now that, and there's just one endler that jumped over from that tank. So the plan is to isolate her, do full spectrum treatments on her, drain, sterilize this tank, throw away that moss because I just don't trust it, and then I'll start again as long as I feel comfortable with her. If not, she may live in solitary, but like I said, I'm pretty sure I can, treat just in case internal parasites, external worms. I'll just treat for everything. Next tank is possibly my oldest fish. This is a female Prograni. The lighting isn't quite as bad as it looks, just with the reflection right there, and she's in the back. It's really hard to see her right now. But yeah, she's about 5 years old, and she's just living her best life by herself in this tank with some shrimp and a couple endlers. Next tank over, I have nebulous steel guppies. Like I said earlier, I'm getting out of the Libera game. So right now, these are it. And I'm putting no effort to raise them. Putting no effort. Luckily, the nebulous steel seem to eat their fry when they're really small. So I don't get too many babies growing up, but I'm really putting no effort into these guys. And like I said, I'm getting out of the Libera game. Next are I kind of showed them briefly earlier, the albino Corridoras. These guys just started spawning a couple months ago, and they're putting out babies pretty regularly. I haven't saved too many of them just because there's so many. They're cheap, and these guys are breeding for everybody, so there's really no point for me to do them. I mentioned earlier, eventually they're going to go to this row to complete Cory Catfish row. Right below them, I have some White Cloud Mountain Minnows. This tank also, for some reason, got hit with planaria, but it's went through multiple treatments. There's no signs of them anywhere, so I'm pretty confident they're gone, but I'm still going to treat these guys. And then after I get through treatment, as long as everybody survives, and I'm very confident there's no parasites or anything, then I'll move them to a Java Moss tank and start breeding them. Next tank, just some zebra Daniels. Once upon a time, I was going to breed them for the heck of it, but then I decided against it, so that's why it's just a bare bottom tank right now and some floating plants. Next tank over, at Fish Club, I picked these guys up yesterday, a pair of German blue rams. They're young, but they're a pair, and I'm going to grow them out. I'm actually setting up tank for them. They're going to go over here with the neon tetras. So it's just, this tank should be set up for them within a week or two. But this tank alone, I mean, these tanks, every tank on this row has been set up well over a year. So this is a healthy tank, just kind of an extra one if I have to throw fish or need extra space for drought or something. So right now they're just hanging out there. The next tank over is my main CPD grow tank. So from this tank where I do my egg traps, for example, I just dump them in here every 3 or 4 days or so. This tank had a couple hundred fish. I've been slowly moving them over to this tank over here. So this is that rack of the 20s, top row where I said I was using a CPD grow. Right now there are, I believe it's 218 babies in this tank, even though it doesn't look like it. Whoa, almost dropped my phone. Even though it doesn't look like it, there's 218 fish in different areas of this tank. These guys are just about, I mean, they're probably solo size, but I want to give them just a little bit more time because they're having a little difficulty transitioning to flake food because they've been raising baby brine strips. So I'm transitioning them to make sure they want to, I feed all kinds of food, but right now before I sell them, the most commonly fed food is flake, so I'm just trying to make sure they're real solid on flake food before they're ready to sell. I say it should just be a couple more weeks and they should be ready to go. So 220 in there, 42 that were spawned between those dates, and the rest between those dates. Like I said, there's probably another 30 or so in here I'm still going to transfer over. So besides that, in the month of September, this would actually started 3 days prior. So we'll say start the spawning process on August 26th, and the last pour was September 22nd. So just shy of 1 month, and there's probably 200, 250 babies in this batch. So they're just everywhere, and eventually as they grow up, and then they'll get moved over to a 20 for their final grow out as well. Probably not that tank, a different one, but they still got probably 2 weeks to a month in this tank before they're ready to go to the next one. So back to this row. Bottom row, nothing in here now. I just use that for, it's got the cichlid substrate, so I just use that for cichlid grow out. I'm going to take a pause on the CPD growing in this tank once I can finally clear out all the babies, because I got a group of emerald dwarf rasboras, and of course I have the moss up the front, and we're probably not going to see any of them. There's no. Trying to look at a little cap, see if I can see any. But yeah, somewhere in there, there's a group of emerald dwarf rasboras. I've never bred them before, and there's one. So I've never bred them before, but they're a cousin of the CPDs. And everything I've researched, oh, there's a few of them. Maybe they think it's time for dinner. But everything I've researched says that they breed the exact same as the CPDs, and they would actually crossbreed with the CPDs. So I'm just going to do the exact same methods and try to get a couple hundred of these guys. Next tank over, cichlid grow out, nothing in there now. Another cichlid grow out, nothing in there now. After that, just got a fridge, a little work area, built this little shelf to save some space, keep all the food that doesn't have to be refrigerated in there. All the extras I keep in there until it's time to use. Up here, just some bagging and just some bagging supplies and my air pump. Next tank is my Choga or Tioga Flameback grow out tank, because I did pull one female, a single female. What I usually do for my mouth gritters is I let the mother do all the work, and then once she gets to the point where she starts carrying the fry and drawing in food and she can't completely close her mouth, that's when I strip them. So once she can't close her mouth completely, I'll strip them. And this female, she couldn't keep her mouth open. I think she had like 54, I think it was like 54 babies in their mouth, and they were all over a 1/4 inch. So I don't know how she kept that many in. Once again, it was one of the fish from over here. But yeah, I think it was like 54 babies. And I'm a member of 2 fish clubs, and I submitted 6 of each for the bat programs of each, and I still got all these babies. Very healthy, starting to sex out. You can see there's a male right there. But they're finally starting to sex out. They're getting good size. They're ready to go. So if anybody wants some Choga Flamebacks, let me know. Right below it, Pseudotropheus interruptus. I let some fry grow out in here, so it's a little crowded right now. But the fry are just now, they're starting to sex out. A couple of males are starting to show blue. So typically, I just have one male, and then this harem of ladies. So right now, there's at least 3 males in there, and he's starting to not like it. So real soon, I'm going to thin these guys out. These guys are very prolific, so I could have hundreds if I chose to. Down here, Zystochromis phytophagus species Christmas Fulu. I have 1 male and I think 9 females. These guys, I believe I got them originally in 19 or 20. They're very small, grew them out, turned out to be all females. Finally got a male this year, but I think they're beyond breeding age. He constantly wants to spawn. They haven't spawned a single time. I actually have one you can see with a messed up body. I watched it happen. She got crushed by one of these rocks one day. I thought I was going to lose her. But she made it through, and this is probably over a year ago. So she's lived over a year with a crushed back off her body. She gets picked on just a little because she's a little slower, but she eats great. Not having any major issues. I have never had to move her to another tank for her own safety. So she just lives the best life she can, just with a crushed tail. Okay, going up here. I can't pronounce that. Pseudocrenolibrus victoriae from Lake Nabugabu. So these fish are kind of interesting. I don't know if something's wrong with them, or it's my water parameters, or what. But they kind of almost act, they're very pretty fish, and they breed, and they eat great, but it's almost like a goby. They kind of jump up, bounce around. I say that, and this one's swimming around. But they bounce around a little bit. Maybe see if there's any food. And then they go and lay on the bottom. I know that's a different one. Where'd he go? I lost that one. He's still looking for food. He sees these, thinks they're getting ready to, he thinks they're about to be fed. But yeah, for the most part, they just lay on the ground. They just lay on the bottom all day long. And half the time, I don't know if they're dead because they're on their side. Of course, now they say that, I don't see any of them doing that. But yeah, typically, it's about feeding time, so they're actually swimming around. But the majority of the time, yeah, they just lay flat on the ground, kind of like that. Or not flat, but they just lay on the substrate or in the rocks like that. Got another one that likes to lay on the plants up there. So they do breed, they eat great, they seem to be healthy. Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 just laying down now. So acting almost like a goby. I don't know if that's typical behavior, or if that's abnormal, or they're unhealthy, or I just don't know exactly what's going on. So as of now, I'm just, until I figure it out, I'm just letting them do their thing. I'm not breeding them. I'm not saving any fry. I'm not putting them out to my fish club or anything. Tank below that are my Benga Sunshine Peacock broodstock. There's the male. Of course, he's hiding from the camera. The male actually looks, he's actually a really sharp looking male. Decent size. When he's flared up or he's colored up, that face gets like this iridescent, shiny, reflective blue, just like really, really cool. A really dark yellow, like with spots. Like it's a really cool fish. That one's just starting to turn into him, or just starting to get his adult colors, just starting to change. If other people have had experience with, I really don't have too much experience with peacocks in general, but these ones, just really, really slow growers. It takes forever for them to even get that size. Down here, these are my main breeding angelfish, but they're getting up there in age, so they're very infrequent spawners now, even when I condition them. Like before, I used to just have to feed them bloodworm for like 2-3 days and they'd have a massive spawn. Now I condition for a week or two, they'll have a spawn and maybe 5 to 10% viable eggs. So that's why I'm really excited that the ones in that 55 down there, that's almost red, which are these guys' babies. I'm really excited that they're pairing off because I think I can get some really solid looking fish from them. Next to them, Haplochroma species ruby green. I've been taking, if you remember that 75 with like, I think it was like 18 or so, or 16 males in there that are ruby greens. I've been slowly taking them out of here. Right now, I think I have, there's 2 females and I believe 2 males. So I got 1 more to get rid of, but these guys colony breed, and there's probably a dozen or so fry swimming around here that are decent size, about probably close to a ½ inch. But I pull out the phone, and of course everybody's hiding. Above that, my only extinct in the wild fish, Weisserchroma species blue tips. Also in that semi-aggressive male tank, I had I think 6 extras in there. Because when I bought them, it was a majority female, or I'm sorry, majority male and only 2 females. Right now, you can see that one's holding right now. So a lot of these guys were babies that grew up in here. And so I was just letting them till they sucks out, and then, because I don't want to breed the babies with the parents, but I'll, at least not in this generation, because as far as I know, there's no problems or anything. So at least you can start to get these guys up with the hobbies, and I can suck them out and sell them as trios, or pairs of trios, or whatever people want. Just because they're a care species, extinct in the wild, it'd be nice to get these guys out. So real soon, should be able to start selling pairs of trios of them. And by selling, I don't ship. I plan on starting to hit a couple swaps. Haven't done it yet, but I'm finally getting enough stock where I can start to do that. So probably in 2024, I will set up my very first table and my very first swap as a vendor. So this tank up here, these are Eastern Happy Cichlids. These guys are total jerks, or at least the males. They will kill every other male. I got that one that grew up in here. He's turning into a male, or he's starting to show male colors. He just, I don't know, in the last like month, just got really, really big. So I don't know if he's going to be challenging his dad or what, but extremely aggressive males. He likes to be the only male in this tank, and he's probably killed 4 or 5 other male Eastern Happies. But these guys are extremely prolific. I think there's 3 or 4 females holding in here right now. But constantly breeding. I make 0 effort to save any babies. I did one batch of like 40 or 50, and I had to give away all the babies. Pet stores didn't even want them. So I'm not breeding them, not putting any effort to saving any of the babies. Next tank over. These are 4 20 longs and 2 29s. Actually, this tank leaks, so I can only fill it up to that high. I have a replacement over there. And so I'll eventually, once I drain this, I'll put it on our Fish Club Facebook page. And if anybody wants a free tank, they just got to reseal it. And they can have this tank. I'll drop it off to them at a meeting. Right now, this one's just being used as a grow out for yellowtail ACI. I haven't written down how many I have, but I think there's, I don't know, somewhere around like 25 or so left in here. Next are Turkana Jewel Cichlids. There's 5 in there. Brought them as babies, maybe a ½ inch or so. They've grown up to this. They're looking real good. They are actually going to be moved to this tank. I'm going to redo everything, move the angels out, move them to the 20. Set this up as a heavily planted aquarium, not with moss. I'm going to actually use like sage and val and stuff, and some Nubia, stuff like that. Set up some caves, some different territories, because I really want to breed these guys, and they're finally getting to the point. They're not huge yet, but when they show up, they're starting to look really great. So I think they're finally getting to the point where I think they're at breedable size, even though they're still a little bit small. Still got some growing to do. I think they can breed, but I won't intervene. I'll just let them. I want them to do it on their own. They eat their babies. I don't want to pull any of them. I just want them to raise their own. So I'll just get them in a suitable tank and see what happens. Next tank up is my, I guess, it used to be my A colony. Now it's turned into my B colony of shrimp and a bunch of Java moss. Not a heck of a lot going on there. This I have Julidochromis ornatus. There's 4 in there. Actually, there's the female. These seem to be kind of a little slower grower too, but they have not spawned me yet. I believe I have 1 female and 3 males. She hasn't paired off and spawned with anybody yet, but I have a feeling that's coming real soon. So I've started to condition them, feed them a lot more live food and frozen food, and so real soon I think these guys should be spawning. Next tank up is another 20 long. This has some Amano shrimp, cherry shrimp, and at least 5 waving mooser plecos. I put in 6. About a month ago I counted 5. So I honestly don't know how many are in here right now. But at least 5, hopefully 6. This one, there's actually eggs in there I saw yesterday. So I'll start fanning them. Looks like he's taking a break now, but he's just fanning eggs. There's another male that's constantly in here, but there's no eggs in right now, but he'll stay halfway out trying to track the female. I'm pretty sure, I don't know what all 6 are, but I'm pretty sure I have at least 3 males and 2 females. But these guys just started spawning. This will be their 2nd spawn that I know of. They kicked the first, both of them on like the same day, kicked both their clutches of eggs out. and I wasn't properly set up. Now I have egg tumblers and hang on the back or hang on the front breeding boxes, so I'm all ready if they kick them out again. The last time I just tried to use a standard specimen container with an air stone and a little methylene blue, and it didn't work out the greatest. Had a few fry, but they didn't last very long. And so I had to work on my technique, done a lot of research, and I'm ready now. I'm fully prepared for the next time these guys kick out their eggs. But I'm really hoping they raise them on their own. That way I don't have to do any extra steps. Next tank over here, reticulated hillstream loaches. Oh, looks like caught them right in the mating process. So I actually just got these guys in June. And they started breeding, and I have no clue how many. I don't know if they're fighting or trying to breed. I'm looking for the phones. I can't really check out their fins to see if they're males or females. But anyways, I have at least, there's my main male. Oops. But I counted at one point 11 babies in here at once. All different sizes. So I have no idea how many babies are actually in here. I just know that there's 11, and they're at different sizes. Like, that's a pretty big one right there, but that's a baby. There's some that are very small, like there's one there. So just different sizes, at least babies. But these guys seem to be producing, especially since I only got them less than 4 months ago. And I bought 6 of them, and they've already at least doubled. Like, if I see 11, that means there's probably at least 20. So should be able to start selling them real soon. So the next tank, oh, now we're back to where we started. So if we go out here, I just have my 180 still. I just have 4 spotted silver dollars in here. I want to convert this to a heavily planted tank where I'm raising all these big giant schools of fish, and eventually they'll go in here. And I want heavily planted, better lighting, probably CO2 and some nice plants. So that's the basement fish room. So I wasn't going to show it, but I changed my mind. The reason I wasn't going to show it just because how dirty it is. But this is my living room tank. This is a 54-gallon corner aquarium. It's my, used to call it my Christmas tank because I have red and green fish in here. There are cherry barbs and green tiger barbs in here, and that's it. Both of them are ready to start breeding. Female's got good size. I think I have 10 female cherry barbs and 5 males. Not sure the sex ratio on the green tiger barbs, but I think I have a dozen tiger barbs and then 15 cherry barbs. But they're ready to breed. That's going to be one of my upcoming projects. This is the only tank I have upstairs. It's right in the corner of my living room, and by far my most neglected tank. I don't know why, since I see this tank the most. But probably because I'm usually spending all my time in the fish room. Then when I finish that work, I really just don't feel like doing it anymore. But the fish are real healthy. The water quality is excellent. And, yep, this is the final tank. Thanks for watching. And